Our next speaker today is an NBA All-Star and a two-time Defensive Player of the Year, and the foremost expert on team building in the business world today. Tens of thousands of people have had their life transformed through hearing his story of triumph and record-breaking success. Today you'll hear his action-packed presentation, which is the 4 commitments of a winning team. You will learn how to apply the secrets of professional sports teams to your life, and that will help us take our organizations to the next level. So if you're ready to start playing a bigger game, you're in the right spot. So let's take a few minutes and look at a few of Mark's NBA highlights.
7'4", making his All-Star debut. From the Utah Jazz, center, Mark Eaton.
Here's Jabbar, low left, good position, little turnaround jumper, block by Eaton. Eaton goes down with the ball.
And that's a move, and a three-point attempt for Mark Eaton.
Eaton grabs it, Mark hands it in. Mark Eaton, what a play by the big fella. Eaton there to help, and he blocks it before Eaton. Rocket right out of bounds. Eaton blocks it, grabs it out. What a play by Eaton. Stockton puts under the big one. And Mark Eaton coming out, he crashes in. Goes to Green. Block by Eaton. Picked up on Magic. Block by Eaton. And it goes out of bounds. Oh, baby. Big Mark everywhere. Big Mark slams it in. Blocked by Eaton. What a play by Big Mark.
Please help me welcome Mark Eaton.
Thanks, Charlie. Thank you so much. Well, it's great to be here today. Thank you. I really appreciate Citizens Bank and Stanley and Charlie and Mike and everybody for inviting me in today, so thank you. First question for you this morning. What do other people really want from you? You ever think about that? Customers, people you work with, even your families. What do they really, really want? And what is the one thing you could give them they couldn't say no to? What people really want is they want to be taken to the next level. That's what we all really want. And when you take other people to the next level, you become invaluable to them. Well, that's what I'm here to talk to you about this morning. How to be invaluable. Because when you take other people to the next level, you get there too. When I was 21 years old, I met Tom, the coach that turned my life around. Decades later, I called Tom and I asked him what I did that made me different. What did I do that allowed me to play in the NBA for 12 years and become an all-star? And what he told me had an explosive impact on my life. Today, as an expert in team building and business, I teach the things that he shared with me that day. The things that I did that made me invaluable to my team. It's my intention that you talk about today, September 19th, as the day that I became your coach. Because on this day you discovered 4 secrets that completely took your career and your organization to the next level. This morning I intend to become that coach for you. And it's not just my intention, it's my expectation. Nothing less. It's April 1977. A man walks into the tire store where I'm working as an auto mechanic. And he asks me the one question I hate. Do you play basketball? Basketball was the one thing I had decided I would never do again. Now, most of you probably believe that you're tall, you can be great at basketball, right? Well, in high school, the coach only put me in a game one time. And 3 seconds after I got on the court, the game ended. I was that bad. In fact, here's the only action shot I could find from my high school career. That's it. Sad, isn't it? As a senior in high school, the small guys on my team were a lot faster than I was. I couldn't keep up. Now, if you're tall, there are some things you could do well on the basketball court. But unfortunately, I didn't know what they were, and neither did my coach. I hated basketball, and I wanted to forget about it. But you see, that was impossible. People just wouldn't leave it alone. A day didn't go by without absolute strangers asking me, "Do you play basketball?" Now, more than anything else, growing up, I just wanted to be like everybody else. But kids, they called me a freak. They called me Lurch. They tried to beat me up. I was like some kind of a tree they wanted to topple. I didn't go to supermarkets because people stalked me in every aisle. The pointing and the staring in the comments kept me out of shopping malls. I avoided people. But it wasn't just people I was avoiding. I was running away from failure. I had failed at the one thing everyone believed I could do. So after high school, I said goodbye to basketball, and I became an auto mechanic. But that question still remained. So this man is standing here in my tire store asking me the question I didn't want to answer. This morning, you'll understand why. You'll hear the story of how I went from a 21-year-old auto mechanic who couldn't play basketball to an NBA All-Star, who played with the Utah Jazz for 12 seasons when the average is 3. And you'll understand why I was never traded and why when I retired, I received the honor that my jersey, number 53, will never be worn by another player again. When I called my coach, Tom, and I asked him what made me a great team player, he said, "Mark, you did 4 things. There are 4 of the most powerful commitments I believe you may ever hear. They're the 4 things that took me from someone with no talent or passion for the game of basketball to the top of the biggest game out there. And they're the same things that took our team, the Utah Jazz, to the top of the charts. I'm going to share these commitments with you here today because I want to help you create teams that are unstoppable, united forces and get the spirit and the discipline that you need to dominate your game. I'm going to teach you how to get that kind of teamwork, the kind that creates champions. In the world of professional sports, if you don't have teamwork, you're out of the game. It's not a luxury, it's what you do. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever worked in an organization where there's a lot of infighting, office politics, backstabbing? How'd that impact your business? What would it be like if you went back to work tomorrow and there was no internal competition? None. Can you even imagine that? That's what it's like when you walk out on the court and you're playing with a world-class NBA basketball team. It is possible. That's what we're here to achieve this morning. If you want to win today and outperform the external competition, grow your business, grow your community, you need teamwork. You need to end the internal competition. On a sports team where everyone is playing for themselves, that spells failure immediately. In business, it's just a matter of time before the same thing happens. So, how do you create a winning team? Well, we've heard the best way to create a winning team is you get the very best players and you put them on the right seat on the bus. Well, that's not what happened to the 2004 U.S. Olympic basketball team. The very best players were handpicked for this team, all playing in the positions where they excelled, and they lost. A U.S. team lost for the first time since 1988. So what went wrong? I mean, what does it take for a group of champions to create a championship team? Something was missing. The one thing that makes a group of people a team. What was that? Are we clear about what other people want from us? Do we really know what's expected of us? Do we ask, or are we hoping? I knew I wasn't succeeding at UCLA, and I didn't know why. Most of us think if we find another situation, things will improve. Well, 9 times out of 10, it's not the situation, it's not what's out there that's a problem, it's us. I made it to the top because I was out on the court all those days doing what I've been asked to do. If you want to go from doing your best to being the best, you need to do what you've been asked. It may not be easy. It may take more discipline and more effort than you believe you can put out. If you want to be a champion, there is a path. Execute the play. That's a success secret no one has told you. You don't hear that one in the world today. That's what got me into the NBA. When Tom asked me to work out 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, I worked out 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. I did exactly what he asked me to do, not less, not something like it. Your job in business today is to do what others ask you to do. It's not to do your best. It's not to do what you think is best. Do what you've been asked. In our culture of individualists, you'll stand out if you just do that. In today's world, that is exceeding expectations. What if you ask your boss or your customers what you could do differently? What if you ask your spouse what you could do differently? Probably get a list. What if you did that list? You'd blow them away. Tom told me if I stopped practicing, it was all over. So I practiced, I really practiced. It was my senior year and I was willing to do anything and everything I could just to have a chance to play in the NBA. Every morning I got up and I went to the gym at 9 o'clock. And I spent an hour and a half shooting the basketball from every position on the court. Then I went in the weight room for an hour and a half. Then I went out on the track and I did sprints and laps. I worked out and I got stronger. Most guys were out there for an hour or two. I was out there 6 hours a day trying to get better. So why aren't we asking what it is we should be doing? Well, I think the first reason we're afraid it might look like we don't know what we're doing. So how can we ask and get the answer we need and still look good? We need to ask skillfully. We need to communicate our game plan and then ask if there's anything else we should be doing or anything else we should be more focused on. There's another reason we don't ask. We don't want more work. We're afraid we'll be asked to work longer and harder. We're afraid that if we ask, we'll be expected to deliver. And that's true. In fact, my coach did ask me to work out longer and harder. Being out on the court 6 hours a day got me in the game I needed to be in. If you want to play a bigger game, you may be asked to do more than you ever thought you could. You may be asked to do things you haven't done before. Doing them is what's going to get you on the court. People are afraid we're going to be asked to do unreasonable things. Unless it violates your integrity, doing what's unreasonable is exactly and ultimately what will make you outstanding. If you want to win today, you need to let go of what you think works and really listen for what others are asking for. We're all afraid we're going to hear things that are impossible, things we assume we can't do, things that we don't know how to do, things that we don't want to do, and very likely we will. And that is where the gold is. Making the impossible possible, fulfilling the unrealistic requests is what separates the champions from the rest, the winners from everyone else. Having the courage to ask and the discipline to commit is what will make you outstanding. And doing precisely what you've been asked is remarkable. These things will take you from useful to invaluable. So what do people most want from you? When did you last ask them? On a scale of 1 to 10, how clear are you about their priorities, not yours? And how well do you execute those requests? What number would you give yourself today? Well, you think about that maybe on the drive home. All right, well, now it's time to try out for the NBA. But I had a bit of a problem. You remember that vision of me being on national television at UCLA? Cameras didn't quite catch me at the end of the bench. No one knew who I was. So my coach Tom and I, we created our own NBA marketing plan. We got out the NBA statistics, and we looked up all the worst teams in the NBA. The Utah Jazz, right at the bottom. Last in almost every statistical category. We called them on the phone. Thought maybe they'd give me a chance. Can you imagine cold calling NBA teams asking for a tryout? The coach and general manager, Frank Layden, answered the phone. No secretary back then. Said, Mark Eaton, never heard of him. Send me a tape. We did, and years later, Frank claimed all he received was 30 minutes of me taking on and off my warm-ups at UCLA. But Frank came out and watched me play in a summer league in Southern California. He pulled me aside. He said, son, I can tell you've been working. He said, I'll make you a deal. He said, you come to our training camp a month early before any other players get there. Get on our weight training program, work with our coaches, get on our running program, and I'll give you a chance to play for 1 year. And I said, Coach, that's all I'm looking for is a chance. So I showed up in Salt Lake City in September of 1982. I thought I was in pretty good shape. I wasn't even close. So I did what Frank asked me to do. And by February 1st, I was on my game, and I was the starting center of the Utah Jazz. Now, Frank was taking a chance on me. He was gambling. He had to do something. The Jazz were losing money, and they were losing games. They had never had a winning season. Frank had become their coach just 3 months earlier. In fact, we used to give away posters of other teams' players to get people to come to the arena. True story. Dr. J poster night, Larry Bird poster night, Magic Johnson poster night. The old joke was someone would say, hey coach, what time's the game tonight? He'd say, well, what time could you be there? Frank started trying to pull us together as a team. He said, if you guys will stop competing with each other and start cooperating with each other, the individual accolades will follow. Now, Frank was taking a chance on a lot of guys that had worn out their welcomes on other teams and players like myself that had little or no experience. We needed good coaching. We needed to understand what it meant to be a team. Frank told us no one cares if you're scoring a lot of points on a losing team. Everyone wants the players from a winning team. We listened and went from a group of obscure players to players that many of you have heard of today. We started passing the ball when someone else had a better chance of scoring. We stopped competing with each other. We started cooperating with each other. We started trusting each other. We started making each other look good, and in time, we started to look good as a team. And as Frank said, the individual honors came rolling in. What Frank was talking about, what made me great, is I never hesitated to pass the ball when someone else had a better chance of scoring. I made my teammates look great and achieve their goals. And that's commitment number 3. Make people look good. One of the most important keys to success is to provide other people with recognition. Making people look good makes you look good. The better you make others look, the better you look to them. In basketball, if there's a player who doesn't pass the ball when it's in the best interest of the team, we call him the black hole. That's the person you throw the ball to, and it never comes back. Nothing will alienate your teammates faster or destroy morale faster than hogging the ball. Nothing will make you outstanding faster than passing the ball. Make people look good. So how focused are you on a scale of 1 to 10 of making the people you work with look good? where would you rate yourself today? And can you think of one action step you could implement this week to move that number up? Is there somebody you need to check in with? Somebody you need to acknowledge? Somebody you need to buy a cup of coffee for? Somebody you've been thinking about for a while? Or an opportunity to make somebody shine in your company? What number would you give yourself today? Maybe during lunch you can come up with an action step. Make people look good. Very important. All right, now it's 1986, and we're playing one of our arch rivals, the Portland Trail Blazers. Never liked those guys very much. It's about 90 minutes before the game, and I'm out on the court underneath the basket. I'm walking around the painted area on the floor. We call it the key. And I'm walking around this area, and I'm saying to myself, this is my house. No one gets in here. This is my house. No one gets in here. If you come in from the left, Big Mark is there. You come in from the right, I'm there. The game starts. I'm blocking shots left and right, disrupting their game, collecting the rebound, throwing it up to John Stockton, throwing it down to Karl Malone, who's scoring easy goals at the other end of the floor. The 16,000 fans in the Memorial Coliseum in Portland, Oregon go quiet. It's the greatest feeling in the NBA. We win the game 95-93. And after the game, we go in the locker room, and all the press is surrounded. Karl Malone had scored 37 points that night. Press doesn't care too much about defensive players. I take a shower, go back to the hotel, grab a hamburger, and go to bed. Next morning, I get up. I'm sitting down in the restaurant, having some breakfast and sipping my coffee and flipping through the paper. And my name catches my eye under a photo of me. And the article starts with quotes from the opposing coach that it wasn't Karl Malone they had so much trouble with, it was me. That my defense was so disruptive, they couldn't run their game. And that was a deciding factor in the contest. On top of that, I blocked 14 shots that night, which was the third highest total ever in the history of the NBA. It was an extraordinary night, but I was doing what was ordinary for me. Because on the court, my teammates knew they could take a risk because they knew I had their back. They knew they could count on me. That's why I played with the Jazz for 12 years. Commitment number 4 is protect others. Maybe. There we go. Who do you protect? Who's protecting you? What would it be like if everyone on your team truly felt safe? If you want to be invaluable, be the person people can count on. If you want enduring relationships, look out for others. Put them first. What enabled me to become an all-star was that I was there when I was needed. When we protect others, people will speak up and take a risk because they know they won't be criticized for taking a risk that fails. When we protect others, we create an environment of safety and freedom. And that's what supports innovation and the immediate response required in our world characterized by incessant change. When we protect others, we sometimes give up an opportunity or put ourselves on the line. When we do that, we show people we care. I'd like you to take 10 seconds right now and write down the names of 3 people you need to let know this week that you have their back. At work, at home, first 3 to come to mind, real quick, just to yourself. If you have children, your first priority is protecting them. Like our children, when our people feel safe and cared for, they will do their best and give their all. The coach that stands up for his team, the player that takes a risk to protect and defend a teammate, is creating an environment where people will step out of the ordinary. This is where trust comes from. Trust is essential on a team. A lot of people talk about trust, but very few know how to create it. Trust comes when people know they can count on you. Trust comes when people know that you're there for them. Trust comes when people know we are committed to their well-being. When you commit yourself to protecting others, you can expect an extraordinary commitment in return. This is where loyalty comes from. Loyalty is what distinguishes a team from a group. It's what makes relationships irreplaceable and people invaluable. When you fight for someone else and transcend your own self-interest, you change the world. We are set on fire when we defend another. We find courage that we didn't know we had. Fighting for someone else, doing more for others than we do for ourselves, is truly what brings out the best in us. And that's where you find the win. That's the power and the magic of teamwork. A team like you've got here with everybody in this great community and Citizens Bank. Well, do you know what it's like to be on top of the world and then nowhere? It's 1993, I'm 37 years old, and it looks like I'm finished. I'd had 12 good years with the Jazz, now find myself sitting on the end of the bench again. I can't run, I can barely jump, I can't compete. It's all come to a grinding halt. I'm seeing my career end. I had a severe injury earlier in the year, and it's getting worse. Night after night, running up and down the court weighing 300 pounds had taken its toll. After 12 seasons, my body couldn't take the pounding anymore. I was in constant pain. I had back injuries, knee surgeries, ankle sprains, a punctured eardrum, sciatica, lost feeling in my hip and leg. I tried chiropractors, acupuncturists, physical therapists, neurosurgeons, cortisone injections. I spent my days in waiting rooms, because that's what it's really like when you play in the NBA for 10 plus years. It's not glamorous. I wanted more than anything to be back out there with my team. I tried everything I could, but it wasn't to be. I didn't know what the future would hold. And in 1994, I called a press conference, said goodbye, and left the Jazz. From that point on, I spent all my time just trying to get healthy. A couple years goes by. One day the phone rings. It's the vice president of the Jazz. It's good to hear his voice. He tells me I'm going to receive one of the greatest honors an athlete can get in professional sports. That from now on, March 1st is going to be officially declared Mark Eaton Day in Utah. And that my jersey number 53 is going to be retired during a ceremony at halftime of a game that evening. In the 19 years of Jazz history, it's just the third player to receive that honor. March 1st, 1996, I'm standing at half court of the Delta Center in downtown Salt Lake City. My first coach, Tom, on this side. My NBA coach, Frank, on this side. My friends, my family, my teammates. 20,000 cheering fans are giving me a standing ovation. The governor picks up the microphone and explains to the crowd that the Jazz were almost sold to a group of investors from Minnesota in the 80s. And the reason the owner of the team didn't sell was because he believed in me. And the reason we didn't become the Minneapolis Jazz was because he believed in our team. That ceremony was the pinnacle of my success and the very end of my career in basketball. Way up high in the rafters, jersey number 53 unfurls. I received that honor because I honored others. That's why I played with the Jazz for 12 years. That's why I was never traded. That's why I became an all-star. I helped others win. To achieve lasting success, you need to help every person you work with be a success. My jersey was retired, but I wasn't. It was the beginning of other things. At 38, I was forced to reinvent myself. And what I found is the same commitments that took me from an auto mechanic to an all-star enabled me to meet the new challenges and situations that lay ahead. All of us face setbacks and difficult situations, and we need something that we can rely on. Simple truths. Well, you have them now. Know your job. Do what you've been asked to do. Make people look good and protect others. This is a strategy that will enable you to master whatever game you're in. Coach John Wooden, considered by many to be the greatest collegiate basketball coach ever, said this: "A player who makes his team great is more valuable than a great player." When you make your team great, greatness will come to you. That's the miracle. Here's how you make it happen. When you go back to work, I want you to evaluate yourself and your teammates with these 4 questions. Do they know their job? Do they do what they've been asked to do? Do they make people look good? And do they protect others? If they're a 10 in all areas and so are you, you've got an all-star team. And if not, you know what you need to work on. Because the people that we remember, the ones that go down in history, are the ones that gave their all to assist others. When you truly help others, you'll be known, recognized, and remembered. These 4 commitments will enable you to have sustained, profitable relationships. If you commit to these 4 actions, you won't lose, you can't lose. But it's your choice. You commit or you don't. Change is just about choosing something different moment by moment. We choose and we create our reality. You choose to be extraordinary or you don't. Just a choice, and one that you could make every moment of every day. The opportunities are endless, and I believe it's never too late. The key to being great is helping others. I didn't start with a belief in myself. Someone believed in me, and I learned that there's greatness in all of us. I succeeded at the one thing that had always spelled failure for me, basketball, because someone was willing to help, and I was willing to take a chance on myself. Tom came into my life with the intention of taking me to that next level, and I'm here this morning with that same intention for you. When we stop being the game for ourselves and start truly being there for others, we become invaluable. That day in April with Tom, I learned how I could be of value to a team, and I made a commitment. That day I took my first step. This morning, I'd like you to take your first step, make the next commitment. Well, I've now given you the gift that my coach Tom gave me. Take these principles home, share them with your people, get them to commit, and I believe you will see miracles. It's simple. To win, help others win. With these 4 commitments, you now know how to do that. Because when we look back at our lives, most of us are happiest when we're helping someone else. You want to be happy? You want to take your business, your community to the next level? Always do the right thing? Commit yourself to others, and the rest will come. It must come. Thank you, guys. It's been my pleasure being here today. Really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.